What is the cost of living like in Seffner, Florida? That's what we're going to be talking about in this video. Number one reason is the affordability. We're going to talk about why that is, along with some of the things that make the cost of living attractive in Florida, as well as some of the things that make it not so attractive, things that are more expensive in Florida, which you should probably be aware of if you're moving this way. And of course, like everything on this channel, we're talking about living, eating, sleeping, working in the Tampa Bay area. If that interests you, hit the subscribe and the bell button so you're notified when we release new content. We love when people call, text, email us, reach out. If you have any questions, send the carrier pigeon, however you want to get a hold of us, ask your questions. We got your back if you're moving to the Tampa Bay area. It doesn't matter if it's day, nights, weekends, whatever. Don't hesitate to reach out. But anyways, we're talking about the affordability of Seffner. Why is Seffner so affordable right now at this moment? I believe the medium sales price, home sales price in the area is $230-some thousand, according to niche.com. And that's just because of the way Tampa is growing and expanding. Tampa can't grow south because you've got the Bay, Tampa Bay to the south of us. It can't grow to the west because you've got Clearwater, St. Pete Beach, the Gulf of Mexico. So everything's growing east towards Plant City, Lakeland, Orlando, and north up that way towards Georgia. So you're still close enough to Tampa that you have access to that whole city urban vibe. If you want, you're about 13 miles, I believe, from downtown Tampa, from where we're sitting right now. You've got Brandon, which is just a couple miles south of us, with malls and the whole city life there. So you got lots of options, but you're still far enough away that it does have a very rural feel and that calm, serene, peaceful vibe. So if that is something that you like, then living in Seffner, Florida may be an option for you, and you have the affordability of houses. Now, we do have a lot of construction houses still being built in the area. There were several master plan communities that were developed here in Seffner recently, and a lot of those they've already completed. Now, there is one probably a couple miles up the road, and they do have half a dozen homes still for sale that they're in the process of completing. And then of course, I'm sure they'll be opening up more. Construction slowed down a little bit just due to interest rate speculation in the market and whatnot, but I'm sure that will be picking up here very soon. And then of course, we have all the other master plan communities just to the north of us in Wesley Chapel and towards the south of us down towards Riverview, Gibsonton, Apollo Beach. So there's lots of options in the area. So even if Seffner isn't your jam, lifestyle doesn't quite fit what you're looking for, there's plenty of options. So we can help you out with that. You just got to reach out and let us know what you're looking for. Keep watching the videos here until you find something where you're like, yes, that's what I want. So anyways, Seffner, Florida has that whole, it's still growing. I'm sure this will develop a lot more over the years. Brandon has exploded over the past 20 years or so. I remember years ago driving through cow pastures to get to my grandpa's house in Brandon, Valrico area, just off the golf course there. And now driving through there, things have changed. You know, all those orange groves that have been knocked down to build new developments and whatnot. So there's a lot of growth moving from Tampa over this way through Brandon, coming up this way, and I'm sure very, very soon all that's going to change, which of course means that prices here in Seffner are just going to keep going up along with everything else, because eventually they're going to start building more houses on past here, which they already are out towards like Kathleen, towards Lakeland, in that area. There's a lot of developments that area farther past us, but as all this area grows and catches up, prices are going to most likely increase as well. So it's still a great time to get into Seffner, Florida. Prices of houses are still affordable here in the area, and you're still close enough to Tampa for work, and you know, you've got that whole vibe. We did mention in a couple other videos that we do have the Amazon hubs here in Seffner just down the street, and so there is work opportunities right here, but you've also got a straight shot down I-4, hop onto 275 here in Tampa, downtown St. Pete. So lots of options, and you're still far enough out that you're not paying those urban prices, right? So what else makes Seffner area affordable? Just like everything here in Florida, there is no state income tax. So especially if you have a business, you're thinking about moving your business to Florida, that is a big benefit, saving you a lot depending on what you pay in state income tax in your state. Here in Florida, you won't have to pay that. So that can save you a nice chunk of change. Now we do have sales taxes here in Hillsborough County. I believe it's 8.5 over in Pinellas where I live. I think it's still around the 7% mark. And I have to look at my receipts because I don't remember. I know they were talking about voting some things up in Hillsborough, and I do believe that passed through, so I'll just have to verify those numbers. But depending on what county you live in the Tampa Bay area, you will pay a little bit more or a little bit less in sales taxes as well as property taxes. Now, if you move north towards Pasco, property taxes are a whole lot less. Like over in Pinellas County, around the area where I live in Palm Harbor, I know there were people who moved from there because they were paying $25,000 a year in property taxes, moved up to Pasco. Now they're paying like less than $2,000, and it's not even that far. The Pasco border from Palm Harbor is just a couple miles. So just things to consider if you are thinking about the cost of living and affordability in the Tampa Bay area. And again, just let us know what you're looking for, what's important to you, and we can help place you in the right location based on all of these factors. What else makes some things to think about when you are moving to Florida that do make Florida expensive is the cost of insurance, property insurance. Of course, with the hurricanes coming through, there's that whole, prices of insurance skyrocket. There's kind of a joke in the industry, especially when I'm doing closings with people. That's kind of how I got into the whole real estate thing. Was I started working with title companies and law firms doing real estate closings. And, one of the forms that they have to fill out is the, what's it called? It's right on the tip of my tongue, but it basically just says the coercement form, right? So it just says that the lender can't coerce you into choosing any one specific lender. You're free to choose whoever you want, and most people are like, well, this is the only one that would take me. So, the only one that would cover my house. So that is kind of an issue just because of the hurricanes blowing through. And then, of course, we had the whole roofing scandal with some not so ethical insurance companies that were scamming people, scamming insurance companies to make a lot of money, a lot more than they should have been charging. And so, of course, a lot of insurance companies have either folded or left Tampa, or it's just making things more difficult for people who do own homes here in the Tampa Bay area. Now, here in Seffner, that shouldn't be a huge problem for you because you're not on the coast. So you're not going to have to worry about those crazy flood insurances or, most likely the hurricanes. By the time they move through Seffner, if they do happen to come this way, by the time they hit the coast, then, the wind speeds and everything, all those hurricane tropical depressions and whatnot do start to lower and slow down. So we'd get a lot of heavy rain here in the area, but Seffner's still probably a good 40, 50 miles away from the coast, depending on which coast you're talking about. You do have the Tampa Bay, which isn't too far away, but if you're talking about like the Gulf of Mexico that way, and if you're talking about the other ocean on the East Coast coming from Orlando, from Cocoa Beach and whatnot, then it's even farther. So you're not right in the middle, but you're in the landlocked area. So you shouldn't have to worry a whole lot. I say shouldn't have to. I've been living here all my life, never had an issue with a hurricane. And I did mention that in another video, so I won't repeat it here. But, as a kid growing up, we heard about hurricanes. We knew they happened, but I never really remember it being that big of a deal. And so anyways, those are just some things to think about. Where are you living? Are you going to have to pay flood insurance or not? So here we have we call it flood zone X, which they say means you're not in a flood zone. It's not technically not a flood zone because, of course, there's always the possibility of floods happening even in a not flood zone, right? And so obviously that is a concern, but you're not required by your lender to hold flood insurance. And a lot of communities do participate in the National Flood Hazard Insurance Program, which is another document that I see people signing, when I'm doing closings and whatnot. So those are just some things to think about that can affect the cost of living if you're thinking about moving to Florida. Seffner is your flood insurance in general, even car insurance. Florida is a no-fault state, and so vehicle insurance is pretty high. Depending on where you drive, I drive up and down US 19, so I do see a lot of accidents over that way. Here in Seffner, you do have I-4 and 75, but within the city of Seffner itself, the roads are a lot less busy, so to speak, because it is a rural area. So obviously not saying nothing's going to happen, but you don't have that, you're not, unless you're on I-475, you're just driving around the rural area. That shouldn't be too big of a deal. But anyways, just saying that because vehicle auto insurance can be a shock to people when they are moving to Florida. So those, in summary, are kind of the big things. Housing is affordable here in Seffner. No state income tax. And what else? And then the things you do want to consider when you're moving here is just insurance for your house, flood insurance and whatnot. Things to consider when you're looking at a house to buy is whether you're in a flood zone or not, and also your auto insurance. So obviously there's probably more. Everything else is pretty much average, I believe, nationally. Food, groceries, utilities, and whatnot is pretty much on par with the national average here in Florida and the Tampa Bay area. So I know there are cheaper places to live and there are more expensive places to live. Tampa's growing fast. There's a lot of people moving here, so obviously prices are going most likely to continue to rise, not just with the real estate prices, but with everything in general. So just stuff to be prepared for. It's not going to be the cheapest place you could choose to come live. But again, if you like the rural lifestyle, you like the cow pasture, strawberry fields, the calm, serene area, and you're not, you don't mind living in a boring place like a lot of people complain about, then Seffner, Florida may be an area for you to consider moving. So whether it is or isn't, the only way we can help you figure that out is if you reach out to us, call, text, email, send that carrier pigeon, however you want to reach out. Doesn't matter whether it's day, night, weekends. We got your back if you're moving to the Tampa Bay area.